So today we're trying to understand what understitch is. This is a sample of a lapel being attached to a garment. This is the other side of it. This is more like a jacket front open, but we need to treat the neckline with a facing. This is facing. I went ahead and did or attached the facing so that if you should turn this around, the right side of the jacket will look something like this. But before we complete this attachment, we do what is called understitch, and that is stitching the seam allowance onto the facing. This is the facing, this is the fashion fabric or the jacket or the garment itself. We use the facing to treat necklines, like take care of the raw neckline and the raw side of the center front. So I went ahead and attached, and now what I'm going to do is the understitch. The understitch is sewn 1/8 of an inch away from the original stitching. So I'm going to kind of position it somewhere around here. This is just about how much we need. And the seam allowance always sits on the facing, not on the jacket, on the facing. The reason we're doing understitch is to make sure that we are hiding this whole facing completely behind the front open of the jacket. Okay, so I'm going to be stitching really close, and while I'm stitching, I'm pulling. Okay, pulling so that it doesn't pucker underneath. And I'm doing exactly 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to come as far as it would let me, because you can't really get to the corner of the neckline. So I will push as far as I can get, and then I stop. And okay, so this is the understitch, 1/8 of an inch away from the original seam line. And then I'm cutting, and now I'm going to do more understitch over here. Now this is a curve. This is the neckline itself. It's the same thing, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on top of the facing, and I just keep going. But remember, there's a corner here that I can't. I will just maneuver to get as far as I can get. 1/8 of an inch, and I'm pulling at the same time because I don't want any stitch caught at the wrong place. All right, so that's about how far I can go. And I leave it alone. But this second stitch that we did, which is called understitch, does wonders. By the time I turn it to the inside, you will see the difference it makes. Now I'm just going to clip this to flatten it so that the corner doesn't get all thick. So I'm going to turn it, just fold it maybe like a 90 degree and push it into itself. Okay, you will see that it allows the facing to lay flat, and you come to the front and you don't see anything. You don't see any part of the facing trying to show up, okay? And that's that. I'm going to do now the main beginning parts that you didn't see. All right, so the facing is cut in such a way that it mimics the shape of the neckline and the front open. It's attached right side to right side. So with that, I'm stitching, because this is a sample, I'm just stitching like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you sew a little bit, you stop. When you're dealing with a curve, you want to be careful going around the curve. Otherwise, it would lose the size. So go slowly. And then when you get about a 1/4 inch away from the edge, you put the needle down and you do what we call a pivot. You're going to pivot and turn. So I did just that, and now I'm going in the front. Okay. Can go ahead and clip, and then I'm ready for my understitch. Again, like I said, the understitch is you push the seam allowance onto the facing, not onto the garment, and you get to do your understitch, which is 1/8 of an inch away from the original seam line, and you sew as far as it will let you into that corner. It's not the easiest to navigate, but okay. There we go. I can walk it a little bit, and that's about how far I can get. Okay. And cut. If you keep going, you're going to get caught, and you don't want that. Like you catch something that you have no business sewing. All right. So we have our 1/8 of an inch again, and we're doing understitch. So this second line of stitching, I forgot one thing. I want to snip so that it will lie flat. Okay. This allows you to force the facing and seam allowance to lay flat. Okay, this is how far this will let me. That's about it. That's how you treat corners. Okay, so now I come back and I turn. Because of the understitch, this neckline will lay nicely flat. Same thing on the side. And you can use a pin to clean up the corner and press it nicely. Okay, so this is how the finished look of the front looks like. And usually if it's a button down jacket, shirt, whatever, you would put it one on top of each other like that. And you put your buttons, if you're going to put a zipper, if it's a jacket and you're putting a zipper in, you will put your zipper in, you know, an exposed zipper in like that, and you're done. This is facing with understitch. Okay, that's it. Thank you.